speaker. And you have to hit that little got it. So hi, everybody. I'm Denise.
And I'm Georgie.
We also call ourselves the Happy Vegan Couple. And we're happy to be here to talk to you about the way we eat, which we think is like the optimal way to eat for longevity and great health. And the hardest thing for me today actually was to figure out how to present, because there's really so much knowledge that I really love to share when talking about this topic, because most people have really no understanding about why whole food plant-based eating is a superior way to eat over the standard American diet or a lot of the other variations of diets that are out there. Most people don't know. And so I've actually created a 3-month course where I really get into all of this. So today is going to be very casual. We were hoping, that some of you would have questions. Maybe some other people will be joining us as we're getting going. But we thought we'd start out with just giving you a little bit of background about how Georgie and I started eating this way and kind of why we're in front of you. So I'll just start, in terms of how I've been eating throughout my life. So when I was 21, I became a vegetarian. And you probably know that that means that somebody is not eating any of the bodies of animals, and the foods from the animal world that they are eating is basically dairy and eggs. So I actually kept that up for most of my life. Actually, from age 21 to 60, I was a vegetarian. My motivation was simply that I did not want to hurt animals. I love all animals, not just pets, but all animals. I don't want to hurt them. That has always been my thing. I recognize not everybody has that. Okay, but that's my thing. But I never really paid attention to healthy eating. I didn't really know what that meant over, maybe not getting food that had a million ingredients that I could not pronounce, right? That kind of thing. But something changed for me when I was 60, which was basically, I'm 71 and a half. So figure out the math, right? So when I was 60, I saw a documentary that had a major impact on me. It was called Forks Over Knives. And what I learned in that movie is that if people were basically eating a plant-based diet where the food was prepared in very healthy ways, a lot of chronic diseases that people suffer from would not exist. I don't mean 100%, because there's nothing like that. But if you just look at the statistical data that's out there about disease and nutrition, we find that people who are eating animal and processed food diets have much higher rates of chronic disease. And in that movie, I in particular discovered that there had been research in the literature about how to stop heart disease, the #1 killer of men and women all around the world. And my father had heart disease and suffered for it with like 30 years. Got it started in his 50s. He died in his 80s. There was a lot of stress in our family because of that. And so in this movie, when I learned that he didn't even have to have his heart disease progress, if he would have fundamentally changed his diet, it upset me that no doctors ever talked about that to my parents. Yeah, they probably said, don't eat so much red meat, but it doesn't go any further than that. And so I love to teach, I love to research. So after watching that film, I decided I was going to learn all about whole food plant-based nutrition, which is what we call the way we eat. And then I was going to teach it to other people. So other people, if they did not want to suffer, hopefully then they wouldn't. They would really reduce their risk of chronic disease by changing their lifestyle and eating healthy. So that's what happened when I was 60. And from then on to now, that is how I've been eating, and I've been studying this material and teaching it. And that's kind of my little story. So Georgie's story is a little different.
Mine's about this short. Well, I've ate the standard American diet all my life. I lost my wife. She was age 58. I was age 58. We were together 35 years. She died from a type of muscular dystrophy called Charcot-Marie tooth disease. I was a caregiver for many, many years, 16 years, and I watched her take her last breath. And at work, I worked with Denise, and we kind of met each other, and she used to talk to me about the way she ate, being a vegetarian and everything. She hadn't been a vegan yet, and it made sense to me, I didn't want to have the problems. My dad has had open heart surgery where they had to spread this thing open and put all these valves, different things. And it's like, I don't want that to happen. So I kind of thought, it's like, you know what? This makes sense. Let's change a little bit. So I called her April 25th, 2014. And I said, I am now a vegan, and I have been a whole food plant-based eater. At that time, I called myself a vegan because I hadn't got any of the research or anything as far as what to eat. So I said, I'm now a vegan, and I have not turned back since then. Since then, it's been 8.5 years, almost 9 now, that I have not ate anything with animals unless somebody slipped it into a food at a restaurant. But for the most part, I have been 100% vegan, and I did it overnight. Gave up the cheese, the meat, everything.
The sugar.
I mean,
sugar is vegan, but we don't want a whole lot of it.
Right. And we don't use the white sugar.
Okay, good. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
So anyway, I'm healthier now than I was before. I'm 67, a little bit younger than Denise, and she can actually take off and hike a little bit faster than I can, but I still keep up with her. I do a lot of bike riding. I do a lot of hiking. We both do a lot of hiking. We go to the gym. We have.
And I want to tell you one of the benefits about your fingers. Tell them about that.
When before I retired and everything, before I became plant-based, I used to wake up in the morning and my hands would be just throbbing and hurting. It's like, oh my goodness, I'd rub them, I'd run them under the hot water or cold water, whatever I felt helped. But since I've been whole food plant-based, they don't hurt anymore. I don't wake up in the morning and throbbing and everything. I do have a little bit of arthritis going in my fingers, but it's been like that for 6 years, but it hasn't gotten any worse. And the pain is what is the main thing. It's gone. Thank goodness.
And so we hear from lots of people, who start going into this lifestyle and really start eating this way, that health problems that they've had start going away. Big things that people take all kinds of medications for. Hypertension is one of the easiest things to change when you eat this way. Type 2 diabetes can be reversed when people eat this way.
No more sticking the needle.
Yeah, I mean, there's so
blood.
many things. So let me just kind of tell you some of the fundamentals about what whole food plant-based eating means. And then we're going to talk about some of the products we use. And we're going to actually do a little demo for you about one of the things I can't live without.
We actually didn't tell them our little story totally.
Well, that's okay. We're going to keep going on.
Okay.
So, what we call the way we eat, we call it whole food plant-based. And basically what that means is we try to eat food as very close to the way nature provided it. So I eat an apple, but I'm not going to make typically an apple pie where now I'm going to throw in a bunch of unhealthy ingredients such as white flour, sugar, and some kind of fat. Might be butter, might be oil, but that is more of a processed food. But eating the apple by itself or throwing the apple into our oatmeal bowl, that is a whole food plant-based way of eating. And
okay, I'm sorry. Here's an apple size and processed. This is better than this.
Yeah, but this is just
Yes.
Right. This is actually healthy. This applesauce, there's no extra sugar in it. So this is okay. I'm talking about an apple pie, Georgie, where we're talking about white flour and a bunch of sugar. That's different than applesauce. Okay. So the main things about the way we eat, why it's so healthy, and I could show you so many studies, but we don't have time for that. So I'm just going to give you some very quick fundamentals. Our diet, number one, has absolutely no cholesterol, and it's very low in saturated fat. And that itself is so health promoting for our vessels, our vascular system, because heart disease and brain health is all about vessels. And so the fact that we are not loading our vessels up with plaque coming from cholesterol and saturated fat is a huge benefit. Most plants are very low in saturated fat. That is very different when you're eating animals and most of the processed foods that are created in factories. So low saturated fat. We do eat fat, but it's healthy fat. The other kinds of fats that are healthy are called monounsaturated and polyunsaturated, and those are better for our vessels, you know, but saturated fat is the worst. The other thing is our diet is very high fiber, and fiber is unbelievably critical for our health. And I just want to show you a book. I know one person already knows about it. Is Fiber Fueled. I have learned so much from this book about why fiber is so critical for our bodies. And the author of this book is a doctor. He's a plant-based gastroenterologist, Dr. Will Bolshewitz. He has lots of lectures on social media. You can find him on YouTube. But I would tell you, this is his first book. He also has another book out that just came out recently. You will learn so much from this about why fiber is critical for your health. And most Americans are actually very deficient in fiber. The other reason why our diet is so healthy is because we're eating the whole food way rather than the processed way. The processed way is when you think about, you know, how restaurants, for example, make food for you. They add lots of sugar, they add lots of fat, and they add lots of salt. And that's what makes the food unhealthy, you know, besides, you know, if it's just an animal type of thing versus a whole food plant-based. But we eat very little added sugar. When we use oil in our house, it's very, very minimal. We don't do like deep fried stuff. And one of the reasons we want to keep the oil very, very low is because oil is just very fattening. And most people gain weight when they're eating a bunch of oil. And you might know the statistics of America, most people are overweight and obese. And one of that is because they're eating so much processed food that has the oil and the added sugar in it. So we really reduce that. And then our salt, not heavily salted. We don't want to give ourselves hypertension or stomach cancer, which you can get from eating a lot of salty foods. So that is very low too.
I cook with
Hey,
low
Denise,
salt.
I'm
and
sorry,
I figure if you want
there's a
salt, you can
question,
add
I
it
think.
after The dish is done.
Okay, and then the final thing is, which we're going to start showing.
Yes, I have a question. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so actually my question is like more on the oil use. Is there any particular oil that you would suggest to use for everyday cooking?
So these are the two we would suggest: avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil. What we would tell you never to use, and again, the information I'm sharing with you is the information I have learned from our doctors in the whole food plant-based community. There's a bunch of them, and dietitians. They give lectures, they write books, and it's all based on the science, right? And so the reason why those are the two oils we would suggest is because they are very low in saturated fat. Now, two oils which we always tell people to avoid is coconut oil and palm oil. Those oils are mostly all saturated. So that's when, again, you're putting plaque in your arteries when you're eating those kind of oils. And again, they have other health effects that are negative. You can also use organic canola oil that is also very low saturated fat. But I would not suggest refined canola oil because there's issues with the way they produce that. So does that help?
Yes. What about sunflower oil? Is that good?
Well, you know, there's actually been in the past some controversy among certain people in this community about some of the seed oils, but the issue is sunflower oil and safflower oil are also lower on saturated fat. So that part is good. The part that gets a little dicey for some is that they have a fat in there called omega-6 fatty acids. And when people are still eating the American standard diet with lots of processed foods, those oils in them, and the people get too much omega-6 in their body, which could create inflammation. But if you're not eating a lot, you know, a lot of animals and a lot of processed foods, then you probably don't have this big imbalance of what we call omega-6 to omega-3. But Georgie and I, we just kind of stick to mostly the avocado and the olive oil.
Just to tell you,
And again, organic, cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil.
the olive oil I use in baking, the avocado oil I use for frying. If I fry something, it's just a minor bit. But the reason I do that is because this has a higher smoke point than the olive oil.
Yeah, sometimes we use olive oil for cooking. It's not
Yeah,
that we never
but
use
no,
olive oil
no.
for cooking, but if
But-
you're cooking something on a real hot flame,
Right.
where you have a very high smoke point with olive oil, they say it oxidizes, and then that can create negative compounds when you do that. So that's why you don't want to use olive oil when you're cooking something at a really hot temperature.
Oh, yes, that is what was my question mainly, because I have heard like olive oil we cannot use at high temperatures. And like me being Indian, I always cook in very high heat.
Yeah, so
So that
avocado oil would be better. And
Yes.
of course, you never
Avocado.
want to use ghee,
Okay.
even though it's culturally relevant for you, but because ghee is just like coconut oil in terms of saturated, it's very saturated, right? It's like,
Interesting. Okay.
you don't want to put that in your body.
Right, black mustard seeds don't pop in vegetable oil.
Oh, okay.
Human fat black,
Georgie,
none of
would
our
you-
seeds pop in vegetable oil.
No, big, Georgie, I think
vegetable-
you meant vegetable broth.
Yeah, vegetable broth versus oil. They won't pop. They won't give you that.
Right, so when
won't-
we make something Indian with those seeds, we just use a tiny bit of oil, you know, to pop it, is what he's kind of saying.
Sorry.
Got
Okay.
it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure. So one of the things I wanted to just share about factual is that there are 5 areas around the world called the blue zones. And I don't know if you guys know about that or not, but these are the areas around the world where people live to 100 and more. And they're actually healthy. They're not in a nursing home, you know, slumped over looking at a TV. These are people who are active and healthy at 100. And what the research has discovered is that these people basically are eating a whole food plant-based diet. While some of them eat animal foods, it's very, very minor. The researcher who has done this, Dan Buettner, says that all the blue zones, basically the average is 95 to 98% of a plant-based diet. So you can see how different that is than how most Americans eat, right? Because most Americans are basically eating animals and processed foods. They eat very little of healthy plant food. And again, that is why Americans are fiber deficient. So we eat very close to the blue zones. And one of the main foods of the blue zones are beans, legumes. And so that is where we get most of our protein. And so we just brought out a couple products, you know, that we eat. Now we make a lot of dry beans, and we do that in
My Instapot, which we have 4 of.
Instant Pot. So if you haven't bought an Instant Pot yet, we would suggest you do. The reason why we like this is because you can cook beans in here and then whole grains, which I'm going to get to shortly, much faster than on the stove, and then you don't have to watch it. It's really a great device. So if you haven't learned about an Instant Pot yet, I suggest you read about it and figure out how to use it, because it's really helpful.
Beans, pinto beans soaked overnight, 25 minutes.
Well, actually, and then it's a few more minutes because the
to
machine
pressure.
has to get up to pressure. So
Yeah.
maybe like 45 minutes. So, but we also sometimes, you know, you can buy a lot of beans dry and cook it in the Instant Pot, and it's very affordable that way. And then you can have like a whole tub of it in your refrigerator, you know, for several days. So it's always ready for you to, you know, bring out and use in your kitchen. Canned beans, though, are also very convenient to use, and we use those too. And typically I rinse them because I don't want the salt, because most of these have some salt in them. But these are really easy to use as well as the bean. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you were whole grains, because a lot of Americans, they are so afraid of eating carbohydrates, which is what grains are. But again, in the blue zones, this is what people eat. They don't eat refined grains, they eat whole grains. And that means that there's been less processing. So here's the 2 examples that are easiest to share. If you have white rice, that's refined. If you have brown rice, that's whole. If you have white flour, unbleached flour, bread flour, those are all refined. If you have whole wheat flour, that's a whole grain. Now, why do we care so much? The reason is because every time you process those grains to make them refined, you lose a lot of benefit for your body. And that's because you lose fiber, you lose minerals and vitamins, and you lose a lot of other what we call phytochemicals, plant chemicals that are in those foods. And that's, again, one reason why so many people are unhealthy, because they do not eat whole grains. And Americans, with this thing that they're so afraid of carbs are making me fat, carbs are going to make me sick, carbs are going to give me fuzzy brain. Refined carbs will do that for you. Those are unhealthy. They will promote disease. But when you eat whole grains, that is unbelievably healthy for your body. And you should never be afraid of that. So we wanted to show you a couple of the ones that we use. So for example, we buy oat groats. Now, you know, there's different kind of forms of oatmeal. Some of you probably are most familiar with rolled oats, right? You know, Quaker oats, that kind of thing. But this is much healthier than that because it hasn't been as processed. These oat groats are actually called called the whole grain of the oats. If I was to chop them and make them smaller, they're called steel cut oats. If I flatten and press them, they're called rolled oats. But every time we do processing, once again with the grains, we lose fiber, we lose other nutrients. So that's why we try to stay with what we call intact whole grains to get the maximum nutrition when we eat those. Some of the other grains we use are, we use hulled barley. So you might know pearl barley, but this is actually the whole grain. And one of the reasons I really love using this, as opposed to like brown rice, is because this has significantly more protein and fiber than even brown rice. So all these other grains that Georgie and I eat, they're actually healthier than brown rice. And I wanted to share that with you because so many people just stick with rice. But if you really start comparing what the grains have, you will find that some of these other grains are very more healthy. Now, many people know quinoa, so I didn't bring that out. We also eat wheat berries. That's another one we eat. I mean, there's many of them that you can eat. And I just thought I talked about the farro. Yeah. So what we want to do next is, because we don't want to run out of time, we're going to have Georgie make something for you. And this is really something that I can't live without. I'm going to show you why we're going to make it. In part, because I'm out of it. So this whole bowl was filled with something that we call cashew cheese spread. And this is all that I have left. And I use this for a lot of different things, which I'll share with you in a little bit. But Georgie's going to tell you a little bit about this, and then he's going to make it for you and show you how it's done, because it's so easy. And then we'll share, you know, how we use it. So I'm going to turn that over to him now.
So what we're going to make is the spread. We use it for, if you have to butter your bread to grill it, this is what we put on there instead of butter. You just put it on your grill for a grilled vegetable sandwich. Just that. We use it for a dressing. Denise uses it for a salad dressing. She just takes a couple tablespoons of water, mixes it up, and then just pours it over a salad. You can use it as a dip, cauliflower, whatever you want to dip into. It's very, very, very good. And it's like cheaper than buying that oily mayonnaise stuff that you buy at the store. This makes almost 2 cups. Well, actually a little bit more than 2 cups. What I have here is my Vitamix blender. The blender is in the other room because when I blend it, it takes away the noise, or you can't hear anybody talk. So once I put all this together, I'll go in the other room and blend it and bring it back out to show you what it looks like. What I want to show you first is Denise wanted me to show everybody. I have an electric lemon juicer here. You push down on it and it turns. This is the greatest thing that I think for people that use a lot of lemons. Cut your lemon in half. You just push it down on it. Just like that. No more juice. It's all in there. I brought 2 lemons out because I need 4 tablespoons, but I don't think I'm going to need that. This is a pretty juicy lemon. Look at that. It's better than sitting there going like this and wasting half of the lemon. This was the best deal I ever bought. I got this at the thrift store. So what I'm going to do first is 4 tablespoons of the lemon juice I just squeezed. Yeah, I still have about 4 left. So that was a juicy lemon. Cup of water. 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. This is the type we use, Bragg's. You can actually use any brand as long as it's an organic type of apple cider vinegar. That's what we use anyway. And then I'll show you a trick. I'm going to put in my miso, and I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of the miso. And
You're gonna put the nuts in yet?
I'm sorry.
The nuts?
I'm going to put it in. And then I'm going to put 2 tablespoons. And what I do is I use the back side of the spoon, not the cup, because this will actually just almost knock off, and you don't have to worry about losing so much in there. Look at that, almost nothing on it. You just take the rest of the nut on the knife. Gonna get 1 more. And you just guesstimate on the tablespoon. And you can put less, you can put more. It's all up to what you feel like. Look at that, my spoon's almost clean. I mean, if I would have put it in this cup, I'd been there for 10 minutes scraping it out. The last thing I'm gonna put in is my whole raw cashews. We buy them at Trader Joe's because they're pieces. 1 pound bag is $6.99. And I've used 2 cups. I get about 5 cups out of that 1 pound bag. Put that up.
I just want to show you what the cashew bag looks like.
Trader Joe's raw cashew pieces. You might not have a Trader Joe's where you're at, but you want to use raw. You don't want to use roasted or anything else. You want to just make sure that they're raw, and that's going to give you more of a creaminess to your texture. And when they usually cook something, they put salt on it. So I'm going to take this in the other room. I'm going to blend it up, and I'll come back here and show you what it looks like in a few minutes. It probably takes about 3 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. You don't want to do it too long because you don't want to get hot. So you just want to make it creamy. So, okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, because when the Zoom cuts out the sound if we were to do it in front of you. So I told him to go do it somewhere else. So go blend and he'll be back in a moment.
Okay, Arnold, I'll be right back.
Well, he's there. I just thought I'd show you a couple resources, you know, besides the book Fiber Fuel that I already talked about, my favorite. I actually even did a little video on this on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't known that yet, we have a YouTube channel called Happy Vegan Couple. And where Georgie does all this cooking and we show step-by-step directions. We have recipes on there that we love to eat, and that's why we share them. I've also done a few interviews with people who've lost massive amounts of weight eating this way and have alleviated some serious health problems. I like to do really long interviews to really find out, you know, what people were doing and how they changed and how it worked and how they benefited. So that's what I do. But a couple other books that I just want to show you. This one came out several years ago, and this is by Dr. Michael Greger, and he has a website that I would encourage all of you to sign up at. It's called nutritionfacts.org, nutritionfacts.org. Dr. Greger reads through medical journals looking for nutritional research, and then what he does is he takes those research studies that a lot of us would not know how to well, and then he makes little videos or writes articles.
Thank you for reminding me, Anish.
Your mic is on. Could you shut your mic if you hear me right now, because I hear your audio? Somebody needs to be muted. So Dr. Greger will educate us with these little videos and articles he writes about nutrition. And this is an amazing book that he wrote, How Not to Die. And basically every chapter is about the different diseases. And what he shares with it is, you know, all the scientific research about why, you know, people are dying from heart disease because of what they eat, why people have type 2 diabetes because of what they eat. So all of that, and then there's a lot of practical suggestions in the second half of the book. So I can't tell you enough about following nutritionfacts.org, Dr. Michael Greger. You will learn so much. Then another book, we follow two neurologists who are telling us that if we want to have the best brain health for our life, we don't want cognitive decline when we're aging, we don't want dementia, even worse, then we need to be doing healthy living, and that includes a whole food plant-based diet. So this is the second book that came out from these two neurologists I follow, and their names are Dr. Aisha and Dean Sharzai, and they have a great website and a YouTube channel, and they even have a wonderful program that does cost some money, but it's all about helping people make this transformation in life to better living and eating and the other lifestyle practices that are necessary for longevity and optimal health. And they just are really helping people transform. So if you have any interest in that, look up the Brain Docs on YouTube. The Brain Docs, that's their moniker, and their website is teamsharzai.com. SHERZAI. SHERZAI. These are some of the smartest people, and if you follow what they do, you will most definitely have better health as you are aging. And then the final one I want to show you actually is from a guy in Australia. He has got the greatest podcast, and it's also on YouTube, and he wrote a book that came out, I think, last year called The Proof is in the Plants. And it's an excellent book, again, giving you lots of scientific information about why eating the way we eat is so good for you and will give you so much more, optimal health than what most people are putting in their bodies every day. So these are some wonderful books for you to consider if you want to learn more. All right, anybody have a question while I'm waiting for Georgie to come back?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is more on the whether to buy organic flour or it's okay not to buy organic flour.
Okay,
Yes.
So we eat mostly organic. That's what we choose to do because our budget allows us to do some of it. We're not 100%.
I'm ready.
We're not 100% organic, again, because of money, but many things we do. Now, in terms of flour, one of the problems for people who are eating at least wheat is that the product Roundup, which is a weed killer, right? But it also has a chemical in there called glyphosate. And there's some controversy among scientists whether glyphosate is actually disruptive to our body and whether it's a toxin or not. I mean, the chemical manufacturer who makes it, which I think is Dow Chemical, they'll tell you, oh, it's safe, it's safe. But, we don't want to believe the producer of something who makes money off of it, right? So what I've learned is that if you are eating conventional wheat, that a lot of the farmers are spraying Roundup on their wheat crops when they're ready to harvest to dry it up so they can harvest it easier. And so because of that, I personally would not want to eat unorganic wheat because I'm worried that there's glyphosate in there. So we're always going to buy organic flours for that reason. Now, some of the choices we make about organic or not organic, one of the ways we figure that out is we use a website called the Environmental Working Group. And every year they create a list, what they call the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And that's our produce. And they say, well, which of the produce that we eat have the most pesticide typically, so avoid that. And so that's what we do. Like we don't ever buy unorganic strawberries or other berries or fruit that's, got a very soft skin in it because pesticides are more absorbed in that. And then there's like a Clean 15 list with like produce that has thicker skins. You might think of like a cantaloupe or a winter squash. The pesticide isn't going to get in there as easily as like a blueberry or a strawberry. That's a kombucha squash. So that's what I would tell you about, organic. Now, very important, what our doctors will always say is that if somebody does not have the budget to buy organic, don't worry. still eat plants. Eat as many plants as you can, whether they're organic or not. Why? Because of those phytochemicals in plants and the fiber in plants and the fact that plants are low saturated fat, right? All the reasons why this way of eating is so health promoting. Get your plants any way you can. If your budget allows you to buy some organic, go ahead and do it. You know, use those lists to help you make the choice if you need to make choices. But that's, you know, what all our doctors would say.
I had a family member that would spend 45 minutes in the toilet and I could never figure it out. And they could always say that they just couldn't go and they were waiting for it. And it's like, it's just amazing. Once they started eating a few vegetables, that you go a little bit easier. You wouldn't have to be in there for.
Well, that's because of fiber.
The
You need
fiber,
fiber
that's
for
what-
food.
That's what I was trying to say.
All
Just
right,
the
so
fiber.
you want to show them now
Yes.
what your cashew
Well,
cheese looks?
this is my cashew cheese. As you can see, there's no more nuts or anything. It's no more liquid. It's all blended up. And I'll show you to pour it out. Nice and thick. It gets thicker as it gets cooler. I won't be able to get this out. I just want to show you, but how creamy that looked. There. So just to show you, it's nice and creamy. Comes right off. And like I said, once you blend this, put it in the refrigerator, it gets thicker. So if you want to use it for salad dressing, you just, like I say, put a couple tablespoons in a coffee mug, tablespoon of water, mix it up just to your desired thickness.
So we use this in many ways, as Georgie is saying, and the salad dressing is my major way. I try to eat a salad mostly every day. I do that in the evening. I try to eat my lighter meal in the evening. And often a big salad is a very important way of eating in whole food plant-based eating. And that's what I love to use for my salad dressing. So one of the other ways I actually use this every day is with my breakfast. So what we eat for breakfast is actually we make a big bowl of oats with those oat groats that I showed you. And then we throw in a bunch of fruit and cinnamon and a couple other things. And it's a very, health promoting bowl. But beside that, what I like to eat is a side of what I call beans and greens. And I add a little cashew cheese. So I might just take a bowl like this and I will have some beans that I'll open up from a can, or we'll already have them made in our refrigerator from the fresh beans.
And she rinses them, like she said.
And then these are pinto beans. I'm not going to actually do it. I'm just going to show you. So I would throw in these beans in my bowl.
Third of a cup.
Well, no, I'm going to eat
Even
at
more.
least 3/4 of a cup. I eat a lot of beans because this is my major protein source, because I'm a 100% plant-based eater. So I want to eat my legumes as much as possible. So I eat a nice good serving of that. And then I throw greens in there because greens are actually one of the best things you can put in your body. All our doctors are always talking about eating greens. They give you so many health promoting properties. If I had more time, I could go into all that. But the way we make it easy to eat greens is when we buy them at the store, we buy collard greens, for example. So we buy the whole collard greens, we bring them home, we wash them, we dry them, and then we cut them up, and then we have a big tub of these in the refrigerator. So throughout the week, until they get bad or I finish them, I can just grab greens and throw them when I'm eating, because I want to eat greens throughout my day in as many meals as I can, because they are so healthy.
And
So
doing it this way, they last 5 or 6 days versus 3 days in the crisper.
So these are my collard greens, and then I'll have, I have kale here. Now this kale came from our garden. We've been growing some. So I have kale as well that I could use. And I don't use all these greens in my morning bowl. I usually just 1 or 2, but I'm just kind of showing you, we always have this in our refrigerator.
But for an afternoon salad, we would use them all.
Well, our evening salad. You're right. And then I have romaine lettuce, but now I'm out of it. So I'm basically there. But see, by having all these in our fridge, when we want to make our salads at night, it's not like we got to start washing and cutting everything, because who would want to do that every night, right? That would be too much time. So we like to have things what we call batch prepped. And that's why we have these Tupperwares in our fridge. And then the other thing I usually eat in the morning with this. So my typical one is I throw in my beans, I put some collards in here, and then arugula, that's coming from my garden too. I cut that up and I put it in here. And then we've got the cashew cheese. I add just a little bit, like maybe you might say a half a teaspoon. It really goes far. And then I mix it up and I microwave it for 30 seconds. And then I have this unbelievably health promoting thing to eat that took just a couple minutes to, heat up. And I love it. It's delicious. I crave this kind of food because I eat it so often. And the thing about the cashew cheese is that, it is made from cashews, and all nuts, are caloric. So we never use a lot of it at one time. It's always just a little bit because we don't want to have, again, all those extra calories. We don't want to gain weight. We want to be at a normal body weight for ourselves. But eating the cashew cheese, like on my salad dressing over like olive oil, the reason why it's better is because just think, you throw olive oil on your salad, okay, you taste good to you, but you're really getting almost no nutrition from that oil. It's basically pure fat. And when you actually take in fat, it usually pretty much goes to fat storage in your body, right? Rather than used for energy right away. So we don't like to use the oil for that reason. And the nuts instead, the nuts have tons of nutrients. The nuts have fiber, the nuts have protein, and the nuts have other abundant minerals, vitamins, phytochemicals, again, because they're a whole food plant. So that again is why we make the difference, why I use that for my salad over like some traditional thing of using oil.
When you go to Olive Garden and you say you want olive oil and vinegar, they're going to put 300 calories of olive oil on your salad. Just right off. It's 1 tablespoon is 120 in calories. That's crazy.
So 1 tablespoon of any oil is 14 grams of fat and about 120 calories. And if you were doing a 1/4 cup of oil, which a lot of people might do for like a stir fry or something, that's like 500 calories, a 1/4 cup of oil. So just think if like you're trying to, have a lean body weight, which is what is healthy, adding those kind of calories to your food, is usually going to work against you.
With no fiber or anything else,
right.
too.
So I found this in my refrigerator. This is another whole grain. These are wheat berries, and we made these the other day, and you can kind of see they're these little little
berries.
Yeah, I mean,
Crunchy.
yeah, they're
They have a
crunchy.
crunchy flavor versus the mushy flavor like rice. So if you want something that's got texture, this is where it's at.
And another reason why Georgie and I also do these grains versus rice, I told you the main reason is because there's actually more nutrition in these grains than rice. But the other reason is that a lot of rice actually has arsenic in it because of where it's being grown and what was grown there before, what was in the soil, all these chemicals. And unfortunately, rice uptakes these chemicals, and arsenic is one of them. And so, arsenic is a poison. Now, there is a way to cook rice and that you can take some of the arsenic out, but I direct you to nutritionfacts.org if you want to learn about that. Dr. Greger actually has a whole series of videos on arsenic in rice and sharing with you, how to handle that if you just want to keep eating your rice, at least trying to limit the arsenic. But what we do is we just use these other grains, and we enjoy it. The other thing that we took out of our fridge that we just thought we'd show you, we make our own broccoli sprouts. So we actually make them in a jar like this. And they start out as these little seeds. You maybe can see some that actually didn't sprout here, these little black seeds. And we actually make this like in about 3 or 4 days on our counter.
That's 2 tablespoons of the dry broccoli seeds. And that's actually 5 days worth. And it starts out nothing, and then all of a sudden it just starts blooming. And
okay, well, I'm not going to tell them how to do it because we have a video on our channel.
We have a video.
One of the recent videos we do, and we actually show you how to make this. Now, why are we eating this? Well, this is why. Because broccoli itself is a cruciferous vegetable. all cruciferous vegetables have a really potent anti-cancer compound in them called sulforaphane. But here's the thing, you don't always get your sulforaphane the way you want it if you don't know how to prepare cruciferous vegetables. So let me just start with this first. Broccoli sprouts has way more sulforaphane than the actual broccoli mature plant that most of us eat. So if you want to get a really whooping dose of anti-cancer every day in your body, eat broccoli sprouts. Go ahead and make them and eat them every day, and you will get that.
Each
Now,
one of those is a broccoli plant. Think about it.
now, cruciferous vegetables is a category of food that includes things like broccoli, cauliflower, red and green cabbage, radish, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, kale, collard greens. All of those vegetables that I just mentioned are in this family. And the way that we get the most sulforaphane when we're using those and not this is you have to prepare it in a certain way. So this is the thing. If I just take some broccoli out of my fridge, cut it up and put it on the stove and heat it right away for something I'm going to eat, I am really not going to get much sulforaphane, because what happened is by heating it up right away, I've destroyed an enzyme that's required to make this chemical sulforaphane bloom in the broccoli. So what we have learned from actually Dr. Greger and a few other doctors, what science has discovered is this. If we take any of those vegetables that I just mentioned in the category of cruciferous, and we're going to cook it that day, what we want to do first is take it out on our counter, cut it up in the way we're going to want it, and then let it sit on our counter for 45 minutes.
Or in the fridge.
And what happens is in that waiting period, once you've cut it up, this sulforaphane will bloom. So that's how we do it. That's what we do. I'm like, if Georgie's going to make a stir fry for us, ahead of time, we're going to cut up those cruciferous vegetables and let that sulforaphane bloom so that when we actually heat them, that enzyme wasn't, the enzyme already did what it needed to do before we heated it. And then when we eat it, we know we're getting more anti-cancer, benefit from our food. And cruciferous vegetables are some of the most potent foods you can eat. We eat them all the time because of these benefits. And then again, all the other plant chemicals in there and the fiber and all of that. It's just so healthy.
If you buy the bag already prepared, the process has already started. So just to let you know that.
So a couple condiments we also wanted to show you. And just a couple things you might not know about that are used in our recipes and on our YouTube channel. So we have there's something called nutritional yeast, and you can buy it in different forms. It's this yellow powder flaky stuff. And basically why we use this is it actually gives a lot of food the feeling that you're eating cheese. It has a cheesy flavor, a cheesy aroma. Sometimes when you cook it, we have a soup on our YouTube channel called cheesy broccoli soup, where we use this. And when you actually pour it in, making the soup, you feel like you're smelling cheese.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't have any of the negative things about cheese, which are what? Cheese is dairy, high saturated fat, high salt, and then all these other issues. The protein in cheese is a cancer promoting thing for a lot of people. I mean, again, when I say that, I don't mean everybody's going to get cancer when they eat cheese, but we see these associations between people who are eating animal protein and disease. And so cheese is still animal protein. Okay, so nutritional yeast is really a really wonderful condiment, and it gets used in a lot of things. What are some of the things we use it for?
Well, we use it in macaroni and cheese casserole that I put in the oven, and it's delicious. It's just like put it on top of your I make a little fideo noodle with onions and stuff with a little bit of tomato sauce, and I put this on there, and it tastes like cheese. It's just amazing. You just put it on top of your pizza, anything. This is a Bragg's brand, a little bit more expensive. If you want, go to Trader Joe's. I don't know, like I said, if you have one by you, it's half the cost of this. You can use it on your salad. You can use it on any soups. It's unlimited how many things that you can use to give you that cheesy flavor.
So the other thing I
What is
wanted to show you was,
Oh,
we make some curries and we use this particular product, which is a red curry paste. They also have it in other flavors. It's completely vegan, no animal products in there. And it is very flavorful. It actually says spicy hot on there, but it's not, because I can't eat spicy hot. And that is just delicious. And we have a couple of great recipes on our channel with that. One we actually have with this squash. It's a kombucha squash soup with these Thai spices. It's so comforting and delicious to eat. So we just wanted to kind of
so this
show
is
you
one of
that.
those squashes that people would buy and put on their table for Thanksgiving and throw it away at the end of Thanksgiving. I mean, think about that. And we eat them. They're just love it.
Okay, and so some
Okay.
other things that we wanted to just
The
to
date syrup?
mention. I said that we try not to have very much added sugar, but you know, sometimes some recipes we need a bit of sweetness. So this is the thing about sugar. There are many forms of sugar, right? White sugar, brown sugar, agave syrup, maple syrup. And the thing is, some companies who market products like to make you think that some are better than others. But according to the science, and you can watch actually a really interesting video on nutritionfacts.org called The Healthiest Sweetener. In that video, Dr. Greger explains all that sugar is actually treated the same by our body. It doesn't really matter the form. And so, again, sugar promotes inflammation, sugar promotes disease, sugar promotes weight gain. So that's why we want very little of it. But when we do need to eat some sweetness, there are some things we can consider that are a little better than others. So one of the better sweeteners to use if you want to use something is something called date syrup. And you can actually, again, find this at Trader Joe's or some other places. Date syrup is just made out of dates that are softened and then pulverized. So the reason why this is actually a healthier sweetener than some of the others, because there's actually, there's really no processing. Nothing has really been removed from the date. And so you still have a lot of plant compounds in the dates itself that make it healthy to eat. I mean, I'm not saying you should go and eat a bunch of date syrup again, because it still is sugar. But if you were going to eat that, that is one of the healthier forms. Maple syrup is probably the other one we would use now if we were going to use an actual sugar. But what we also use, where is our monk fruit extract? I don't see it up there. Did we have it in there? Now, we use a sugar substitute, and you might have actually seen headlines in the last week saying that what we eat is going to cause heart disease. And I'll just tell you about that. Georgie's just showing you this product. So we get this one from Costco, but you can also get a similar in the regular grocery stores. There's only 2 ingredients in there. It's called erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol, and monk fruit extract. The monk fruit is a fruit. Okay, Georgie. And the reason why we use this, I actually learned about this product from those 2 neurologists that I follow, Dean and Aisha Sharzai. And they do, Aisha likes to do a lot of cooking demos. She's trying to help people learn how to eat this way. And so they actually use this product in their house. They rarely use, if ever, regular sugar, and they like to use this. Why? Because there are no calories, and also it will not give you a blood sugar insulin spike, which is what regular sugar will do. And that is not healthy for your body when your blood sugar goes up, and then your pancreas has to excrete insulin for that, and then you get a big insulin spike. That's not healthy. What's healthy is to have insulin come out in little bits when you need it. And so anyways, these headlines, there was a study done saying that this is actually could be scary for people for heart disease. And I did get concerned about that. But then I listened to the Aisha Sharzai did a kind of a rebuttal to that study, saying that the methodology was actually poor. The findings really shouldn't be shared like that. And then another cardiologist who's plant-based came out and agreed with her. And since we hardly use this, I mean, again, we use so little sugar, we're going to keep using this right now. You know, I was convinced by these doctors that, you know, that was not a good study to really come up with that finding. So we're still okay with that. But
Mostly for sweetness, I use my date syrup. I don't use we've had that for quite a long time and just barely used a little bit of it. So, yeah, so it's
Anyways.
904.
Okay, so we've been talking, and then just a couple other things. We
Okay.
use low sodium tamari, which is like kind of like a soy sauce, but there's no wheat in here. So for gluten free, this is better for you. Tamari, but and these things are salty, so we always go for the low sodium. It's still salty anyways, but you don't use very much of it. But it makes a lot of dishes, Asian style dishes,
Asian style,
you
yes.
know, yummy.
Do
and
your
then
tofu
something-
in it.
Similar is called coconut aminos.
It's sweeter.
It's a little sweeter from coconuts. And it also can add some nice flavor to your food. So,
Good on rice, some types of grains. I like putting tamari on my wheat berries, you know, and eating it that way.
so these are a lot of the things that we use. I mean, we could keep going on for a long time to share so much more, but I can see it's like 9 o'clock now. And I think maybe this, you know, we don't want to keep you more than we're supposed to. So I mean, we're happy to entertain any questions you have. We're not in a hurry. We just want to be respectful of you.
Yeah, and I did a class on Tuesday where I kind of described what we did today, but I had more things on there. And Denise says, well, that's going to take you 2 hours. And I said, oh, no, I'll be done in half an hour. It took the whole 2 hours.
So do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask us?
One thing that we talked about before was the difference between a vegan and Whole Foods.
Yeah, thank you for that. I did want to say that. Okay, because that's an important thing, actually. You know, so we do call ourselves a happy vegan couple because we do have that ethic. It's really values, you know, that we personally have, that we don't want to hurt animals. So that's our vegan ethic. And also a lot of younger people today are also calling themselves vegan. And it's not necessarily about the animals, but what they have learned is that when people are eating animals, it's very destructive to our planet sustainability. And it's also a major problem for climate change because of things the cows and the animals emit into the air that actually cause, you know, again, the problem of carbon dioxide and all that and these other gases. So younger people today, a lot of them use the word vegan to say, you know, I'm going to eat to protect our planet so it can be here for all the generations that come after us. So vegan is really an ethic, it's values. It means that when you're eating nothing from an animal. But this is the thing, you can be a vegan and you can eat the most unhealthy diet. And there's actually been nutrition research showing that some vegan diets are actually terrible for people and that they can be very unhealthy and people are going to have disease. Why? Because they're not eating the way I just discussed, you know, we just discussed within the last hour, a whole food plant-based. You know, vegans can not eat animals, but they can sit there and eat white flour bagels all day. They can eat potato chips all day. They can eat Oreo cookies. They can eat French fries, deep fried all the time, and anything else deep fried, right? And none of those foods are healthy for us. So Georgie and I, we never say that we eat vegan because I want to be eating a healthy. And so we call what we eat whole food plant-based. So we are vegan for the ethic. We don't want to hurt animals. We want to protect our planet. We don't want to be selfish and ruin our planet for the people who come after us. But the way we eat is whole food, plant-based, high fiber, low saturated fat, whole grains, not refined grains, and then low sugar,
And
oils, and salt. That's kind of the basic thing.
we want the planet for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question about salt. Is there a specific type of salt that you would recommend, like
Yeah, so-
iodized salt versus?
Yeah, so, you know, years ago, I was kind of hitting I got seduced by marketing and I was buying pink Himalayan salt.
Yeah,
So good. Well, here's the problem. There's not much iodine in that. And, you know, iodine is incredibly necessary for your thyroid. And a lot of people who have thyroid problems, it's because one reason is they're iodine deficient. And so this is why we buy the iodized salt, because we want to make sure we're getting a source of iodine. And again, we don't use very much of it, but that's where we get our iodine. Now, there's other ways you can get iodine. You can eat seaweed that has iodine in it, but there's one seaweed you should avoid because it has too much iodine, and that is kelp. Kelp has a lot of iodine, and you might not be able to figure out, have a very small dose. There's another seaweed actually that's suggested we avoid. It's got nothing to do with iodine. It has to do with arsenic. Like I told you how rice will take up arsenic. Also, there's a seaweed called hijiki, and that also is known to have arsenic. So you should avoid that. Or if you also wanted to take a pill, a supplement iodine pill, you could do that if you wanted to make sure you were getting your source of iodine. But we just make sure that we use our iodized salt. I don't buy pink salt anymore or any of those other kinds.
Thank you.
And I don't cook with a lot of salt. I try to limit what I put in my cooking. And I feel, like I said earlier, that if people want salt, they can add it later, so.
Any other questions or comments?
What's your YouTube channel?
So actually, I can share my screen, and I'm going to just show that to you. And I actually wanted to show you one book, because this is a mom's group, and so I'm assuming some of you have children. And one of the things is most people don't feed their children really healthy, right? Because they're feeding them the standard American diet, and sadly, people are even feeding their children processed meats, which are a class 1 carcinogen, bacon, hot dogs. I mean, those are foods that have been deemed to promote cancer. And we're giving that to our kids, right? It's kind of crazy. So I actually want to show you from Amazon a book that would be really great for anybody to read who's a parent, and tells you everything you need to know from I think even when you're probably still pregnant to when the baby is born, throughout their life cycle, what you want to do and how you want to eat to make sure you're going to provide your children with the very best. So let me just share my screen for a moment. Connie, do you know how to allow me to share my screen? Connie?
Are you seeing it now?
Okay.
It says
There we go.
multiple participants can share.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't. Okay, so I have to just be able to find, let's see. Let me see if this is it. I can get there from this. Okay, so the book. Okay, so here's the book I want. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the book, Nourish. It's the 2 people have written it. One is this amazing dietitian from Canada named Brenda Davis, who I listen to her lectures. I love listening to her. She's written a lot of books about plant-based eating. She's a vegan herself, but she's of course going to talk about healthy plant-based eating. And she wrote this book with a pediatrician, and it is just phenomenal. It's got everything you want to know, as I said, about raising healthy children. So you set them up for health in life rather than disease.
Is it in the libraries?
And well, some libraries have it. I asked my library to buy it. And then I want to show you our YouTube channel. So this is our YouTube channel. It's called Happy Vegan Couple. And you can kind of see, this is where you want to go. When you go to it, you want to go to the video tab, and you can actually see some of the videos. Here's one of the ones we did recently for the class we're teaching right now. We made a kale salad and showed them how to massage the kale to make it softer and a little easier to eat. And that was actually a recipe from those 2 neurologists I follow, the Sharzais. And that's that. And then you can see right here, this is our broccoli sprouts video that we also did recently to teach you how to do that. This is a great dish that we make in the Instant Pot. And you can see how easy it is. You can see we have no oil, no sugar in this, just healthy plant foods. This is actually a dish that we came from the Fiber Fueled Cookbook, Dr. B's second book. That's really delicious. I think we got that from him, or I don't know, maybe that's not his, maybe that was a different one. I can't remember. No, this was Dr. B's, this one, this very veggie Indian curry. That was, I think, from the Fiber Fueled book. You can see we've got baked cauliflower wings, of course, no oil. We're not
Yes.
deep frying them. This is a healthy way to
One of
eat
my
that.
favorites.
And then like, this is an example of a interview I did. Actually, this gentleman had a stroke. And after he had a stroke, he completely changed his diet and started getting healthier. So anyways, that's our YouTube channel that I just wanted to give you an idea about. Okay. Anything else?
Oh yeah, what type of miso did you use earlier?
Yeah, so there's different flavors of miso. And we usually just buy one, and we buy the one that we say is the stronger flavor. It's kind of a red miso, but you can use any miso you want. Maybe you wouldn't want the stronger flavor. You might want more mild. So they're very interchangeable. It's just kind of your own personal preference. And we always do buy organic when we buy our miso. Again, because a lot of soybeans, well, I guess if you got non-GMO soybeans, at least there's no Roundup on it. But soybeans are like constantly being used with Roundup because they give those to the animals. So, any other things? The last thing I maybe just share with you is like, how do we eat through the day? Because some people think what we do is so hard and complicated, and of course we don't think that. It's like so easy for us. But why don't you tell them, like, just quickly, like, what's our breakfast? I kind of talked about it, but just remind them.
We eat oat groats with strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, or my goodness,
Cinnamon, we put cinnamon,
Cinnamon.
some bananas in there.
Or
We put
bananas.
a little bit of unsweetened organic
Used
soy
to.
milk. And why do we use soy milk rather than almond milk, for example, or
More-
oat milk or
More
whatever?
calcium or protein.
Because of the protein. That is specifically why I buy soy milk, because again, soy milk is a legume that's protein. It's got great protein in it. And we want to, use that as part of our getting our protein, since we're not eating any animals. And again, there's no issue getting protein in this diet. It's just like everything else. You just have to know which of the foods you're going to prioritize to get that from.
And we don't look for calories. We don't look for protein. We just eat a variety of all of our foods.
And that's actually critical, what Georgie just said. You have to eat a diversity of the plant food categories. So that means you eat fruit. You eat non-starchy vegetables, carrots, red pepper, broccoli. You eat starchy vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squash, corn, whole grains. You eat legumes, your beans, many kinds of lentils, right? Yellow split pea, green split pea. You eat nuts and seeds. Seeds, like I wanted to show you.
And if you go to a restaurant and you order a piece of meat, you're not tasting the meat. You're tasting all of the vegetables and the seasoning that they're putting on it.
So flaxseed, that's one of the seeds we eat. We buy flaxseed hard. We don't buy it ground. We buy it hard, and then we grind it and keep it in like a jar like this and stick it in our fridge. The reason why we buy it hard rather than ground is because one of the main reasons we're eating this is because it has the omega-3 fatty acid in it, which is really healthy for us. And that fat can degrade if it's in light and heat. And so if you're already buying it ground, you may have already lost some of it in the processing, and so that's why the doctors suggest the optimal way of doing that is to buy it hard, the hard little seeds, grind it in a blender or a coffee grinder, and then put it in a jar, put it in your fridge, and then take it out and use it. And then, when we finish the jar, then we grind some more.
I use a coffee grinder. It's the easiest to do.
And then we keep the package of flaxseed with the whole flaxseed, we put it in our freezer
Right.
to keep it as fresh as possible until we're grinding it. So we eat that in our oatmeal every morning. And then, like I said, we also eat I eat my beans and my greens and cashew cheese. He eats that too, and he likes to make a side of spinach for him. We also eat a little bit of broccoli sprouts every morning, and we also eat a little bit of sauerkraut every morning, because fermentation with fermented foods is also really good for our gut microbes. And so we want to make sure we get a little fermentation in our body every day. And along with that, I could go on forever, you guys. You're going to have to stop me. But
There's a question. There's a question.
Okay, one more thing. We
Okay.
make our own soy yogurt in the Instant Pot. We started doing that several months ago. And you know, yogurt is a fermented food, and it is the most delicious yogurt. It's gonna.
I wanna
show you
say
what it
real
looks
quick.
like.
If anybody has mason jars, they eat strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, put them in the mason jars in the refrigerator. They'll last 4 or 5 days longer than they do if you leave them. in
This is the
package.
soy yogurt we made today. And what we do is we strain it, we like get all the liquid out after we cook it in the Instant Pot, and it's very thick, you know, like Greek yogurt. And it is so unbelievably delicious. You put this in a bowl with some berries, either frozen or fresh, flaxseed, raisins, banana, maybe some nuts. Oh my God, you got the most delicious health promoting dish there. And again, berries, eat berries. Berries is another major food group that does wonders for us.
And
Just
I
wonders.
know one of you viewers right now has been making our yogurt, so I hope you're enjoying it.
Okay, what was the other question?
My question is regarding the flaxseed, because I have read and saw videos that you should always like roast flaxseed, like the hard seeds, before grinding. Is that true?
No, I've never heard that.
Okay. Okay. So just like buy the hard one, unroasted, and then just grind it.
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about roasting. I mean, there's no reason to roast it. I mean, maybe it gives you a flavor or something. I don't know if it would hurt.
Roasting.
I mean, we do heat these because we put it in oatmeal, we put it in all kinds of dishes.
But we don't roast it.
But yeah, but I've never heard that, so I can't speak.
And
to that.
one thing with it is you want to grind it down, because if you've got a whole shell going down through your stomach, it's gonna come
She's
out.
not talking about that. She's just talking about roasting and then.
But even roasting, it's gonna be whole, it's gonna come out the same way.
Georgie, she's talking about roasting and then grinding, I believe.
Oh,
Not
okay.
eating it whole.
Oh, okay, I
I
didn't
need
hear
to
that
eat
part, I'm sorry.
That's
Oh.
fine. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Anything else? Okay, I was just gonna finish one other thing. So that's kind of breakfast. Our lunch is kind of our bigger meal, and that's why like all the recipes you see on Happy Vegan Couple YouTube channel, those are the kind of things we eat for our second meal of the day. Whether it's a burrito or tacos or burgers or curries or pasta. I mean, there's such a wide assortment of things to eat. So that's where we get, you know, a bunch of whole grains and cruciferous vegetables and you know, other legumes and some delicious dish that we're eating. And then our third meal of the day is more often a salad or a bowl of yogurt. Again, we want to eat those salads with a big salad with a whole mixture of greens and lettuces, and then the other raw vegetables, you know, red pepper, tomato, cucumber, you know, all those kinds of things. And then we also want to make it satiating, right? So then we also throw in some beans on our salad or lentils on our salad or some whole grains that we had in our fridge on our salad. You know, you might put a couple nuts in your salad. We don't eat nuts too often for snacking, because if you do, you can just keep eating and eating and eating. Like if you snack and get bigger and bigger. So that's why, you know, all our doctors, you know, don't suggest we snack with nuts, but we use them more as additions to our food. You know, so every morning our oatmeal has some walnuts in it, for example.
So one thing to eat in the salad at night is you want your body to sleep. You don't want your body working and trying to digest all this food. You want to make it as easy as you can for your body to relax.
Well, it's not really relaxing. The thing is, when you go to bed at night, your body actually has important work to do. Your brain actually is doing a lot of things with regard to memory and stuff. Your body is actually doing repair of cells and stuff like that. And the problem is, if you eat close to bedtime, then when you lay down, first your body has to start digesting the food because you've just given it to food. And so it takes away from the other important work that happens while we sleep. So that's why all our doctors are always, you know, telling people, please, you know, don't eat close to bedtime. And if you do have to eat something very light, like maybe some fruit, you know, they'll get digested really easy. And speaking of fruit, you know, like I said, in the morning, we always eat berries, and we often have apple in our oatmeal as well with banana. But then throughout the rest of the day, like when we get hungry in between meals, that's when fruit is a wonderful thing. Grab an orange, grab a tangerine, you know, have some more berries, you know, have a watermelon in the summer, you know, whatever is in season. fruit is wonderful to eat. It's got fiber, it's got great minerals and vitamins in it, and the sugar is part of it. It's not like added sugar. It's part of the fruit, so it's healthy for us.
So don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, don't be afraid of it. And
Okay,
I'll
we have a question
our
here.
beverages, we mostly drink water throughout the day. We never buy pop. We don't drink any alcohol because alcohol is a carcinogen. So we choose not to do that. Basically, our liquids are basically water, tea, either herbal tea, green tea, black tea, and some coffee in the morning. And that's pretty much what we drink. But otherwise, it's like we try to hydrate all day long, you know, drinking water, because you need to be really hydrated for good health and for your body to work well.
Work time.
Yeah.
We have-
Anything?
Yeah, Dorothy?
Hi, yes, my question was again about the flaxseed. Have you used it as a substitute for egg while baking?
Yes, 2 tablespoons of flaxseed to a tablespoon of water, mix it up and let it sit. That's your egg. You can use,
Okay.
you can use banana the same way. And there are a whole bunch of other things. Just punch in Google vegan
Well, I would say,
alternatives.
right, or whole food plant-based egg alternatives.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of ways that you can make because basically what the egg is doing
A
some
binder,
binding.
Right.
And there's many other ways to do that with healthier things. 'Cause when you
Okay.
eat eggs, you're getting cholesterol, you're getting you're getting a huge dose of cholesterol, you're getting saturated fat, you're getting animal protein that can again promote cancer and inflammation and other things. So, you know, we don't want to do that.
And
Okay.
one of the things, I used to love eggs. I used to eat 2 or 3 eggs a day. That was my go-to in the morning. And I haven't had an egg in a long time. So I craved it, but I don't crave it anymore. So
Tofu scramble.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, scrambled eggs, make tofu scramble. We'll crumple it up or make little cubes. We have it on our channel too. Many people, you can find tons of cooking videos.
you can make an omelet out of chickpea flour. Okay, so
There's so many, you know, alternatives to, you know, eating the animal stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anything else?
no,
All right. Well, so then
9:24.
So then maybe we'll leave you with that. I hope that some of you listening will go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, hit that little notification bell, and then you will get our videos as we put them out. We actually have a video for the cashew cheese. I haven't released it publicly yet. I'm going to do that sometime soon. So if you actually want to see Georgie again making cashew cheese, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and then hit that bell, and then you'll know when we release that soon. And like I said, we're also on Facebook. On Facebook, I share some educational stuff, some things from doctors, you know, things that they put out. I can put that on Facebook, can't really do that on YouTube. And if you guys ever have questions, we're always willing to help people. We love, because our mission is really to help people optimize their health. We don't want to suffer. Don't be like my parents. It was awful watching what my parents went through. And like I said, I'm 70 and a half years old. I don't have any of my parents' diseases. They had heart disease, Parkinson's, and dementia. My mother laid in a bed for 15 years with dementia, if you can believe it. It was quite horrible to watch, quite expensive to deal with. We had caregivers. Thank God my dad had some assets, but you know, nobody should have to go that way. And if you follow these neurologists, I just want to show you their book again. Go find these people. This is one of the best people you can listen to, Dean and Aisha Sharzai. And just look them up, get their books. This, like I said, is the second one, and you will learn so much, you know, about healthy eating. Okay. Is there anything else, Connie? I couldn't see what those things that
I think that might be all. Thank you so much.
all
We
right,
really
everybody.
appreciate it.
We
This
hope that
this
optimize
video will be
your
up.
Maybe we can do this again.
Yes,
The
have
more
a good
you
night.
eat this way, the more benefits you will receive. That's the thing. The farther you go, the more you will experience benefits. You
Thank
only do a little bit, won't have as much. So as you can get yourself to go further to the whole food plant-based eating.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. It was really nice. Thank you. Good night. Thank you for your time.
You.